Obama's talking about all of this with the global warming and that, and a lot of it's a hoax. It's a hoax. I mean,
solving the climate crisis is the greatest and most complex challenge that Homo sapiens have ever faced. The main solution, however, is so simple that even a small child can understand it.
In the year 1896, Svante Arrhenius discovered that the increase in carbon dioxide in the atmosphere would increase the Earth's surface temperature through what is known as the greenhouse effect. This led Charles Keeling to conclude in the 60s that man-made carbon emissions are large enough to cause global warming. According to the World Economic Forum, in 2014, climate change is now the biggest threat humanity has to face. So, why is it taking so long?
And if solutions within this system are so impossible to find, then maybe we should change the system itself.
All of the water levels around the world rise by let's say 5 feet over the next 100 years, say 10 feet by the next 100 years, and it puts all the low-lying areas on the coast underwater, right? Which, let's say all of that happens. You think that people aren't going to just sell their homes and move?
The social network can encourage users with the same beliefs to share information with each other, but at the exclusion of alternative points of view. The echo chambers of today's polarized online world reinforce denialist views. Without realizing, users can be caught in these bubbles, which feed information to them that only confirms their denial of climate change. It's our everyday actions, such as browsing social media or even tuning into some mainstream news networks, that keep the climate change denial echo chamber running. Imagine a young and impressionable version of yourself. You stumble across an outlet, your favorite blog perhaps, supporting climate change skeptical views or even declaring the whole thing a hoax. But you wouldn't have to take the blogger's word for it. All that they did was cite the manifesto of a party such as UKIP. In 2015, it stated that, quote, "The Climate Change Act is doing untold damage. UKIP will repeal it." It also argued that, quote, "Coal must be part of the solution for cheap energy security." UKIP, with its leader at the time, Nigel Farage, are of course not the only ones with a climate-skeptical message. Across the pond, many of their views are shared by major politicians such as Donald Trump, who in 2012 dismissed climate change concerns as a Chinese hoax. Seeing views like these propagated by an outlet that you both like and trust, it's only natural that you might take them seriously. But it doesn't stop there. Politicians rarely stand on their own. In fact, the majority have various groups and vested interests supporting them. Let's take a group such as the Center for the Study of Carbon Dioxide and Global Change. Their name could make us think that they are doing their best to showcase the dangers of climate change. It is actually the complete opposite. They dispute scientific consensus on climate change and even claim that global warming is beneficial to mankind. With all this in mind, a non-climate change skeptic could look at these politicians and ask, if climate change is accepted by 97% of scientists, why is all of this happening? To answer this, we might look at the remaining 3%, scientists largely employed by climate-skeptical think tanks. These research facilities provide the data which supports politicians such as Donald Trump and Nigel Farage. The Heartland Institute, one of these think tanks, contributed by organising 10 international conferences on climate change and thus bringing together hundreds of climate-skeptical thinkers. In 2012, however, leaked documents revealed details of payment to the previously mentioned Center for the Study of Carbon Dioxide and Global Change. Or perhaps let's take the Heritage Foundation. In 2014, the Heritage Foundation provided massive support towards climate-skeptical US politicians. Afterwards, at least 66 foundation employees and alumni got positions in the Trump administration. Both examples demonstrate that research organizations of their ilk are incentivized to have a skeptical stance on climate change. At the root of this web of propagation of climate change skepticism, the funding comes, unsurprisingly, from fossil fuel companies. The world's biggest oil company, ExxonMobil, conveniently donated $1.87 million to politicians in the US Congress who deny climate change. $454,000 was also paid to the American Legislative Exchange Council, an outlet which peddles a vast array of corporate-written legislation which attempts to undermine the scientific consensus on climate change. Remember the Heartland Institute? Received over $700,000 from Exxon between 1998 and 2005. Clearly, fossil fuel businesses have no interest in being objective about climate change. So it should be no surprise when they choose to keep private their own CO2 assessment results, which show that by 2060, CO2 levels would be double that of the pre-industrial era. There are a multitude of companies and individuals who have still not recognized that climate change is a global and current disaster in need of urgent action. Climate Change Exposed is a campaign to reveal the truth, the lies, and the disguise. Check your sources, check your facts, check your motives.